now come to order. It is so nice to see you standing on the walls and all the seats are filled and I am just so happy to see you as all the board members and our superintendent this evening. So we're gonna get started with our meeting now with,
Madam Chair, I move that we return to open session and adopt certification of closed session.
Second.
it has been motioned and moved in second that we adjourn to closed session and, open session, adopt certification of closed session. All of those in favor use the usual sign. Aye. Hearing no nays, we are now in open session.
Certification of closed session. Whereas the Dinwiddie County School Board has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas paragraph 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now and therefore be it resolved that the Dinwiddie County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board. Dr. Elaine Pearson, District 1.
I certify.
Dwayne Walker, District 2.
I certify.
Barbara Pittman, District 3.
I certify.
Mary Benjamin, District 4.
I certify.
Jason Brown II, District 5.
I certify.
Madam Chair, all certified.
Thank you. I will now invite you to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance with 3 outstanding students from Southerland. Thank you. Madam Secretary, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we need to amend the agenda to include under agenda item 2.02, real estate. So we adjourn to closed session for personnel and real estate.
I believe it's 1.02.
1.02, I'm sorry.
Right. Madam Chair, I move that we I move that we amend the agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and second that we follow the agenda as amended. All of those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. So we're now ready for our recognitions.
Do we need to do an adoption of the agenda now that we've amended it?
I did not do it.
Okay. Okay.
Be a little patience with us. This is technology in action.
If you go back out, this is what you're trying to get at. I don't know if I can plug that in.
You can find it on hers.
If you go back to meetings. If you go back to the meeting, it was down there. Go back to
Okay, so we'll have Dr. Brandy Walker, who's going to, the principal of Southerland Elementary School, who will come to us this evening, and share, and Ms. Bartlett, assistant principal, who will come to us tonight and share some highlights of Southerland Elementary School.
Right, so I'm Dr. Walker and this is Ms. Bartlett and we're the admin team at Southerland and we are so excited. We have some students tonight that are going to stand up and tell you why they're lucky to be a Scotty. And they wrote it on their own. We typed it, but they came up with it, so.
My name is Alani Henderson.
Why are you lucky to be a Scotty?
I'm lucky to be a Scotty because my teacher helps me do my sight words.
And where do you like to go?
To gym.
Yay, that's awesome.
Ready?
That's awesome.
My name is Cody Clygett, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because the teachers are nice and most of the students are nice and kind. They want to be friends with everybody. I also love the special stuff we do at Southerland, like planting trees, student concerts, and family events. Every student gets a free book out of the book machine for their birthday. Also, when you make good grades, you get to do fun stuff for your hard work. We get to do lots of things that make learning fun. I am also lucky because my mom teaches at Southerland and I get to see her a lot. There are lots of reasons why I'm lucky to be a Scotty. I am so happy to be at Southerland.
My name is Nala Ingalava and I am lucky to be a Scotty because I like my teachers and my friends. I like to read and I like to work hard on my computers and I like the janitors.
Oh.
My name is Kendall Payne, and I am lucky to be a Scotty because all the teachers boost our confidence and they help us when we're emotional.
Thank you, darling.
My name is Josiah Hirsch, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because I can get an opportunity to win a bike or get cool stuff from the fundraiser. Think of a school with its own money. You're lucky because you can buy stuff with this fake money. If you're lucky, you can say the Pledge of Allegiance. You can even become a member of the National Honor Society. I'm waiting for my decision on my application now.
That is so awesome.
My name is Jalen Baldwin, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because I am nice to people and people are nice to me. I love my school and my teacher.
That's so
My name is Noah Miller, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because I'm a student at Southerland. I have been able to perfect my writing and become a published author and learn cool stuff like box multiplication and division. And I also have my book with me right now.
My name is Seamus Barnes, and I am lucky to be a Scotty because I have a sharp mind, because I keep learning for my teachers, and I keep reading books. I've been able to learn so much, and I get smarter every year.
My name's Isana Galap, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because everybody there is sweet and kind. I love Southerland Elementary. Every morning you'll hear a good morning and you'll see a smile on everybody's face, no matter what kind of day you're having. All the teachers are caring and supportive. When I first started coming to Southerland in second grade, I struggled a lot, especially in reading, but they kept encouraging me and helping me. I've come a long way, not only in my grades, but they've also helped me gain confidence in myself. They also make learning fun, and I've never had so much fun learning. This will be my last year at Southerland, and I will miss it very much. That's why I have been so lucky to be a Scotty.
My name is Scarlett Samuels, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because of all the teachers and my friends. The teachers help me learn new skills, and my friends make me laugh and are fun to be around.
My name is Savannah Pardo, and I'm lucky to be a Scotty because I get to learn new things like multiplying decimals, and I get to meet new people and make lots of friends, and I have a great principal, counselors, and teachers.
Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed hearing from some of our students. And Noah's actually going to participate in our career day since he now has a career.
Oh my gosh.
Hello, everyone. Today, we would like to recognize Coach Rogerson and the DHS Girls Wrestling Team. The team had a great season, and what a great way to celebrate Women's History Month than none other than to have Coach Rogerson to come up and share with us most recently what these young ladies have been accomplishing. Coach Rogerson, correct? All right.
All right, and while they all get up here, it's a really good problem for a coach to have. A lot of good stuff to cram down in a tasteful amount of time. So if it goes too long, one of y'all just throw something at me, and I think I'll get it then. But good afternoon, everyone. We're pleased to be back, even bigger, stronger, even closer team than we were here last year. First, we'd like to thank each and every one of you, all of you, who've supported our girls and our wrestling program in the way that you have. Every like, comment, share, donation, ticket sale, good word and praise has all led to not only our continued growth as a team and interest in what we do, but also the outstanding success that they've had. So, as a team this year, our girls have made a habit of finishing in the top 3 of everything we've done, at the very least, including the 2 that we went to outside of Virginia, winning 4 total, including 2 in the largest in the state, the Orange County Girls Open, which is that one right there. And our zone regional tournament, our state qualifier, we won that one as well. Every possible individual metric of scoring in our sport against our competition, we've come out on top. For every point that our competition scored, we scored another 1.5 points. It's a special year for a lot of reasons for us. One of the first ones is we graduate our first group of seniors. From the original team, Langston Pardon, Sydney Ogburn, and Amanda Walker. and we had a first-year wrestler senior, Nevaeh Trailer. She came to us, saw the ad, thought it looked fun, and went and qualified for the state tournament. But two ladies behind me here consistently have been at the top of that winning for us, both Sydney Ogburn and Amanda Walker. When we started this girls team, Sydney Ogburn was coming off her freshman year wrestling boys in the varsity lineup, and very understandably was considering leaving the sport at the conclusion of that season, as most girls in that position did at the time. But when it was announced that girls wrestling was an emerging sport, I went to her telling her, we're making a team and it needs you to lead it. Will you come back? And still to this day, I don't think I've had a kid say yes to something as quickly as that question. Without her, it is very difficult to say where this team would be here today. She finishes her career as a 3-year captain, holding 4 school records. Girls wins in a career with 88, wins in a season with 29, pins in a career with 60, and pins in a season with 26. She's a 3-time state placer, a 1-time finalist, and a 1-time runner-up. She has a 3.6 GPA, and we couldn't be more proud of her. And to explain more of the wrestling terms, pins is kind of the ultimate win in our sport. So think of a pin as a home run. Her on her back. Sydney is pinning that girl there. So that's what we're trying to do. If you're on top, we're in a good place. Next is Amanda Walker, and she joined our team as a unique member, being the only one of the original group who I actively did not recruit. Not meaning I saw her and didn't want her, but she wasn't one of my students. And she, again, quite literally, like Nevaeh, she saw the ad, thought it looked fun, and she showed up on time, every day, and ready, every day for 3 years. For the next 3 years, she'd continue doing all these things. As a first-year wrestler, she placed 4th in the state, as a state finalist and a runner-up her junior year. This year, she did something no other wrestler in Dinwiddie history has done, and that is she pinned her way through the state tournament. Of the 32 total possible minutes of wrestling for her in that tournament, it only took her 11 minutes of wrestling to become our girls' first VHSL state champion. And again, pinning pinning everyone in the tournament, that's the equivalent of a perfect game in baseball or a perfect passer rating in football. It doesn't happen a lot, and it's never happened for us either, until now. She's the school's 2nd state wrestling title, 3rd individual girls state title in any sport, and she has a 4.67 GPA. Did I get that right? Okay. And she'll continue her education in wrestling in the fall, and I'll let her tell you guys when she feels the appropriate time where that's going to be at. But she has unarguably set a standard for our team on the mat, in the classroom, and in character, and she'll be sorely missed along with Sydney. Again, we're truly blessed to have all of you, because after 3 years of traveling, competing across 5 different states, you can ask all these girls. There aren't many places that support their girls wrestling program like here. And thank you. We have a place for all girls. We have cheerleaders, softball players, volleyball players, soccer players, FFA, FBLA, list keeps going. But we turn away no one, and we built this together with girls who have no experience at all, and we're proud to keep doing that together. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we end recognitions, we would be remiss if we didn't remind everyone to come out to support the Early Learning Fair that will take place this Saturday at 9 a.m. at Dinwiddie High School. This is a perfect time for our community to register students for kindergarten, for pre-K, to meet our school officials as well. There will be plenty of community vendors out, a lot of fun and excitement, and it will be perfect weather on Saturday, so we hope the community will come out and support our Early Learning Fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to recognize
Are there
them?
any parents and other teachers from Southerland or Dinwiddie High School who are here to support their children, their students? Will you please stand up? We are so glad to have you and so proud that you trust your children with us each day. And you are important and your children are very important to us. And we just thank you and we appreciate you. Dr. Weston, would you have something you would like to say?
No, I would echo what Ms. Benjamin just said, that we know you have a lot of choices when it comes to education, and we appreciate the fact that you choose to send your children here and share them with us, because they're quite unique. So thank you all so very much. Can
Okay,
we
so
take a little break?
now we're going to take
Take
a
a
little
little
break
break.
and you may go out and may take some pictures and
Yes, let's
do
get
some
lots of
fun
pictures.
things with your children. Thank you again for coming.
They're so cute.
meeting. How cool was that to have a celebrity among us? Yes, that was really great. We're going to continue with our meeting now, closed session reports.
Chair, I move to approve the personnel list as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and second that the personnel list be approved as presented. All those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye. The personnel list has been approved. Expenditure reports.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the expenditure reports as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and second that the expenditure reports will be accepted as presented. All of those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from February 25th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and second that the minutes from February 25th, 2025 meeting be accepted. All of those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, board matters.
Mr. Torres.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I have 3 trips today. The first one is the Scholastic Bowl team would like to take a trip to Washington, D.C. Date of the trip will be April 19th. Ms. Minitry has set tours, exhibits, a full day in Washington, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We'll take our bus, about 16 to 17 kids, 2 to 8 adults going, depending on parent participation.
And are there any questions about the Scholastic
Chair,
Bowl trip?
I move that we approve the Scholastic Bowl field trip.
Second.
It has been moved and second that we approve the Scholastic Bowl team field trip. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's approved.
All right, our second trip is our FBLA trip to Reston, Virginia. It's an overnight trip. And we have a few kids competing in this leadership conference. The sponsors are going, Miss Roselle and Miss Nivens. We're working out transportation. I'm not sure if it's going to be bus or car. Miss Roselle requested a bus, but it's in the talks, put it that way. And it's overnight, 4th and 5th over spring break. So no classes missed, anything like that.
Are there any questions about this trip? And they have taken this trip before.
Yes, anytime that there's a competition, it's a qualifier. We do qualifiers. I believe this is a state conference or a state competition. So we're higher up in the end of the division here.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the FBLA field trip.
Second.
It has been moved and second that the FBLA field trip be approved. All those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
All right, and our last one is the FFA Spring Leadership Conference being held near Smith Mountain Lake. There's also the Teachers Conference going on at the same time with Miss Bishop and Mr. Davis attending that. We have right now, I believe, 2 students that can possibly go. One is definitely going. It's an overnight trip. And looking for approval there. Miss Bishop, Mr. Davis, they'll be there with the conference, so they'll be there to take care of the kids along with FFA from the state of Virginia. Mr. Davis will drive a activity bus or car or van.
Are there any questions about the FFA trip?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the trip as presented for FFA.
Second.
It has been moved and second that we approve the FFA field trip for the Spring Leadership Conference. All of those in favor use the usual sign.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Aye.
Thank you. I hope you feel better, Ms. Pittman.
Thank you.
She's smiling.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. I appreciate that.
Now Dr. Clay is going to come forward and talk to us about the calendars for the upcoming school year and beyond. you.
It is always a pleasure to stand before you. And so this afternoon, I am presenting the drafts of the 25-26 and 26-27 academic calendars. So first, I would just like to say, there's a committee that comes together for this, and I would like to thank our committee members. So Natanya Robinson-Williams, Chris Wells, Jen McMinn, Chelsea Meredith, Jenny Walters, Meredith Torres, Kristen Bulis, Carissa McLawhorn, Leanne Adams, Dr. Tori Walker, Stephanie Bailey, and Anna Farrar. It's not easy always to do committee work, and it's something kind of after school, when you're tired, that you have to come and do, and so we do appreciate their help with this. So just an overview. First, the 24-25 weather makeup days. I will speak to that in just a moment. I've already spoken to the calendar committee, and that we're going to be showing you 2 academic years worth of calendars, and then we're going to talk about considerations of the committee. So with weather makeup days, I don't have a slide for this, but I know it's been a question. This year, if you remember, we only built in 5 days worth of hours. So we count 6 instructional hours in each day, so 30 hours are built in. And snow liked us this year, right? So we had several snow days where we had to miss for weather. And because of that, we went over our bank time. And when you do that, because of the Virginia code that says you have to either go 180 days or 990 instructional hours, we did have to make up some time. So we have made February 17th, March 3rd, March 21st, and April 21st makeup days that has been communicated to staff and families. And again, that is because we went over our bank time. The middle school was in a unique situation because on top of the hours that we missed for weather, because of their boiler fire, they actually missed 3 additional days, so 18 extra hours. And so for the middle school specifically, we have not made up those 18 hours. So that is where we have submitted what the state calls a weather waiver. There are very specific guidelines around a weather waiver. One of those being you must exhaust, is what their wording is, all means of making up time. And you have to be able to prove that. And so we have shown where we're making up time with the weather days. So we have submitted that waiver and are awaiting a response. Okay. So the calendar committee met beginning in October. There's a representative from each school plus division level representatives. The representatives acquire feedback from the school staff and ensure that we're meeting instructional time. Again, that's 140 clock hours for credit classes and 990 hours for all non-credit classes. So there were several iterations of each year's calendar, and what the members do, take the draft back to the school, get feedback, answer any questions those staff may have, bring feedback back to the committee for consideration. So a breakdown of the 25-26 school year calendar. Basically, you can see how the 9 weeks are broken down, how many days are in each 9 weeks. And at the bottom, you can see our total number of days technically is 175. When you look at the calendar, we have added 2 early dismissal days, which we're counting in the 175. But because we go with hours, we cannot count 6 hours for those days. So we can only count 3 instructional hours for those days. So the total number of instructional hours in this first calendar is 1,044, and that gives us 54 bank hours, which is the equivalent of 9 days. And remember, when we come to school late, those 2-hour delay days or leave early, we have to subtract those hours from our instructional hours. And board members, you have an actual physical copy of this, but this is just kind of a snapshot of that first draft where you can see There's a code or a key at the bottom where the yellow pieces are actual holidays where all offices are closed. Purple are professional development days, and there's just different symbols there that can help you tell kind of different pieces of the calendar. The breakdown for the 26-27 school year, again, you can see where the 9 weeks fall, beginning and ending, how many days, and for a total, again, this calendar also has 2 early release days, and I can speak to that in just a moment, where we're counting those in the total days, but we can only count 3 hours for that time. But this 26-27 calendar does give us 1,050 hours, which I will say historically is the norm, okay? That we try to build in 60 bank hours, which is 10 days of bank time. And again, you have that draft in front of you. So one thing I will speak to on both drafts is you can see there are 2 half days that are built in, and I would like to talk about why we decided to do that. You know, transportation on those early release days can be a struggle, but there was a member of transportation on our committee. One of the considerations of the team was, you know, teachers asked for extra time. Like the one thing we hear from staff is we just need more time. Time for planning, time for work days. And with a calendar, like everybody can't have everything, right? So the committee had to decide, you know, how can we build a little extra time in? Because to build time in, you've got to take away from something, right? So one of the things we talked about was Thanksgiving break. We could take the Monday and Tuesday away to build extra work days in, but the committee did not want to do that because, you know, that's kind of one of the perks is we like, our teachers like, staff like having that week off. So what we were able to do is take away a professional development day in both calendars and build an early release day in. So you will see one of the early release days is in January on the 9th, which is also the end of the 9 weeks. So it gives teachers a half day work day, and then they have a full work day that following Monday. So we were able to build a little extra time in there. We did the same thing at the end of the year. In May, you will see another one of those days on both calendars, which is also the end of the 9 weeks. It's the last day of school. It will be early release, and it builds some hours of teacher work time that should be uninterrupted by meetings and all those things. True teacher work time. Okay. Other considerations, as the norm has been, new teachers return 2 days prior to other teachers to participate in the DCPS New Teacher Academy, which is led by Ms. Spires and many of her team members. 10-month teachers return 2 weeks prior to students, and you can kind of see a breakdown. We have IDCPS, we do a lot of professional learning on those days. It provides time for building-based professional development or principals to have meetings with their staff. Common planning should be built into that. Teachers have time to work in classrooms. Both calendars do have one flex day built in, which was an ask of some teachers. And what that means is that Monday, when they should return, like for the 25-26 school year, it's August 4th, if they work through their principal and the building is ready and they come in one day in July to work on their rooms, which a lot of teachers do that. They want to get in those rooms and get it ready for students, get it decorated, get it organized. So teachers, many of them will come in July regardless of a flex day. But if they work with principals and do that, they wouldn't have to come on the 4th. They would come back for opening meetings on the 5th. And then both calendars have 2 professional development days built in. Again, our goal is just a continuous cycle of professional development. We had more this year because of new standards, Virginia Literacy Act. Next year, we just have 2 days built in. Any questions on the calendars? The recommendation this afternoon is that they are approved both years. And I will say other localities have not put out the 26-27 calendar draft yet. As far as 25-26, we've seen Chesterfields, Colonial Heights, Prince George. We are in alignment with those with all the big breaks. So Thanksgiving, spring break, winter break, things of that nature, we are in alignment with that. There may be a few single days that we don't align, but overall, we do align with many of the Region 1 calendars. Any questions?
No, I guess, Dr. Clay, we have enough time built in for our snow that's unpredictable, but.
We do this year. Yes, ma'am. We went back to the committee just to say we need to build in some more bank time. You know, it's easier to give people a day than to take a day back was the lesson learned this year. And this year was just unique. With Virginia Literacy Act, new standards in English, new standards in math, we just wanted to make sure we were giving staff the professional learning time they needed. They're doing letters. We're providing time on professional development days for them to do their letters training, Canvas modules. It was a unique year, but we have built in more time for the next 2 years. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Clay, can
I
you?
have a question.
Yes.
So could we ask the committee to kind of look ahead and perhaps if we don't use that extra time, what should our focus be on how to give back any of that time
Sure.
down spring? What target days or things that we might be looking at? And then again, we might have just as much snow, but just in case we don't.
Right. You never know. It's so unpredictable. Yes, Ms. Pittman. So I will say the committee talked about that a little bit. What we said was we don't always get back all the bank hours, right? We have not historically done that. Remember, 990 is the minimum, okay? But things that we talked about that staff normally ask, the Monday after Easter, the Friday before Memorial Day, President's Day where we can. Those were the main ones that we talked about, especially the Monday after Easter, the Friday before Memorial Day. This year we had those things built in, and then we had to kind of pull back. So absolutely, as we did the 2 years prior to this year, I did come before the board when we were not using bank time to just say we would like to provide a wellness day for staff and students. And so we will certainly do that if we do not have weather that causes us to close next year.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pittman. Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's a good way to use those
Yeah.
hours.
Again, it's easier to give than to take away.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Clay?
Just have one small question.
Sure.
Can you remind us of the number of people that are on the calendar committee?
Sure. Let me look at my notes again, Mr. Brown. So I believe it's 13 of us. It's one representative from each school. So every elementary school, middle and high. Ms. Robinson Williams and I serve on that committee as leads. Then we have central office staff. Mr. Wells serves to represent human resources, just to make sure we're going by contracted time. We're not, making anyone work over their contracted days. Ms. McMinn serves on that to just think about testing and making sure that we're breaking down 9 weeks and semesters and that testing is possible. And then this year we added an extra, like a principal, an elementary principal, Miss Adams is an extra member. We added Miss McLaughlin from transportation because we just wanted to make sure if we considered early release days and things of that nature, that she was a part of that as well. Dr. Walker served as a secondary principal.
When you said there's a representative for each school,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it already. Are they teachers? Are they administrative staff?
They are teachers. The only school this year that did not have a teacher was the middle school. And so Dr. Walker served as the representative for the middle school this year. But yes, the other 6 schools, they are teachers. And the way that works, just to kind of explain, is we kind of start with a draft, based on, we looked at other counties for the 25-26, and then for 26-27 kind of modeled that off of what we saw other counties doing for 25-26. We start with that. We talk about the requirements of code. We talk about questions that, like Dr. Weston gets in superintendent advisory. How do we build in, more time for teachers? Is a 4-day work week possible? We came up with that it was not. But if anyone has feedback on how to do that and get in 990 hours, we're open to that feedback. And then we ask the teachers or the committee members to go back to their school. We ask them to get in front of staff at a faculty meeting talk about the considerations, present the draft, and then ask for feedback from teachers. The feedback doesn't have to have a name with it, right? Ms. Robinson Williams makes a Google form for the committee members to put that feedback in. And then we look at that feedback at the next meeting, right? And we say, okay, what kinds of things can we change? What makes sense? And we change a few things, and then they go back and do the same thing again. Take this back to your school, get more feedback, and that's kind of how we get to the final drafts. Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027 calendars as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and second that we approve the academic calendars coming from Dr. Clay. All those in favor? As
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is there any new business? No new business. So now we are going to move around a little bit. Superintendent's matters will come. We're gonna do move 603 to 601. The Improvement Association.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and to the board members. I am Keisha Kelly, Head Start Director with the Improvement Association. I would like to thank you for your continuous dedication and support on behalf of our board and our policy council and our executive director and staff. Thank you for your continuous dedication and support. Thank you for allowing us to reschedule for this month. I truly do appreciate it. I am not going to do the report on this month. We have Ms. Tracy Mahalik, our program manager, that is going to do the report. But we do know that we missed Appreciation Month, but we dare not come showing our appreciation. So I am going to give you some small tokens of appreciation. And then Ms. Mahalik will come back up to give you our report for fall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Mahalik, Program Manager for the Improvement Association Head Start. In Dinwiddie this year, we are serving 49 students in 4 classrooms. We have 4 teachers, 4 teaching assistants, and 6 support staff. So far, we have conducted 119 home visits, 49 parent-teacher conferences, 2 field trips, and we've held 1 community event. I will mention we do have another community event that will be happening in May. We have assisted families with comprehensive services, some of those being food, utility, and rental assistance. For our fall outcomes, we use Teaching Strategies Gold, which aligns with our curriculum that we use, creative curriculum. In social emotional, excuse me, because the writing is super small. We have 42.93% of our students that came in the fall below. We have, I believe that says 57.6 students in the that were meeting those goals in social emotional support, and we had 0.61% of our students that exceeded those goals. In physical, we had 33.74 below the benchmark. We had 57.06 that were meeting the benchmark and 9.2 students that exceeded. In language, 38.65 below, 58.9 meeting, and 2.45 exceeding. In our cognitive, we had 50.31 students that were below, 49.08 in meeting, and 0.61 that exceeded. Literacy, 63.8% of our students were below, 34.97 meeting, and 1.23 that exceeded. And then in math, we had 75%, about 75% that were below, about 24% that met, and 0.61 that exceeded. We will continue. We report our outcomes during the fall, the winter, and again in the spring. For class, we have an external and an internal observer to come in and observe our classrooms. And things that they're looking for are that emotional support, classroom organization, instructional support. They're looking for positive interactions between our teachers and the students. In the emotional support, we scored in the 5.69 range, classroom organization 4.88, and in instructional support 2.67. And then we also use the Virginia Literacy and Language and Literacy Screener, also known as VALS, formerly PALS. And so these are the screener that we use. Some of you may be familiar for like alphabet knowledge, letter sounds, the ability to play with those letters and those sounds. In the fall, our 4-year-olds scored in the 46.59% were in the beginning range, 44.32 in the growing range, and 9.09% in the strong range. And syllable segmenting, we had 5.68 in the beginning range, 23.86% in the growing range, and 70.45% in the strong range. Letter sounds, 84.9% were in the growing range, 12.5% in the beginning range, 85.4%, 12.5 in growing, and 3.41 in strong. In our beginning sounds, 67.05 in beginning, 11.36 in the growing range, and 21.59% in the strong range. With letter names, we had 58.44% in the beginning range, 27.27 in the growing, and 14.29 in strong. For our 3-year-olds, the letter sounds, we had 88.46% in the beginning range, 6.41 in growing, and 5.13 in the strong range. Still our 3s in syllable segmenting, we had 32.05 in beginning, we had 12.82 in the growing range, and 55% in the strong range. In beginning sounds matching, we had 64.1% in the beginning range, about 29.5% in the growing range, and a little over 6% in the strong. Some of the activities that we have participated in that encourage our family and child engagement is the home visits. That's where our family service staff meet with the parents to set up family goals. And then our teachers also meet with the families to set up goals for their child. We encourage our parents to attend parent center activities. Some of those have been this year financial literacy, getting physically fit and focusing on those physicals and dental exams. We encourage parents to help at the school, to participate in their parent-teacher conferences, and to attend the classroom to volunteer, help teachers lead activities. Some of those examples have been Kite Day. And then we'd just like to thank everyone here at the school board, Dr. Weston, our parents, volunteers, other community leaders for your continued support.
I would also like to announce that Head Start will be celebrating 60 years of existence. As you know, Head Start began in 1965 up under President Lyndon B. Johnson to help fight the war on poverty. I know that y'all have been helping us fight that war. Despite what may be happening in politics, we are still going to fight that war for another 60 years to come, especially if I have anything to do as a Head Start director with it. But we will be doing different activities to celebrate 60 years. Of course, one of which will be our transition ceremony. We're going to do it a little different this year. So we will be in constant communication through email, and we will send an invite to that transition ceremony. And it's Mr. Tyler, so he may ask for one of y'all to be on the agenda. So be on the lookout for that. Also, I would like to say that we are currently accepting applications for the upcoming school year for our 3 and 4 year olds, and we will be meeting with you all to discuss next school year. Again, thank you all for everything that you do for us. It is truly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you know that we went through the transportation study some time ago, which uncovered, it was an effort for us to figure out a way to work more efficiently in our transportation department. I really applaud Mr. Walters for really disaggregating that information and trying to tackle some of our biggest challenges when it comes to transportation. So tonight he's going to come and talk to you about a proposal about one way that we might be able to address our late bus situation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board. I wanted to come before you this afternoon to talk to you a little bit about some issues that we're having operationally in Dinwiddie County. I don't think it's any surprise. These issues won't come as any surprise to anyone. I do want to make sure that everybody understands that it's very clear that this is a informational session, that I'm looking for discussion. I wanted to bring it before you so I can present this publicly, but also so you can discuss it publicly should the need be there. My recommendation today is just to take this as an informational session and use it as a catalyst to improve the operations of Dinwiddie County Schools, which is what our ultimate goal is. Am I doing this, Bonnie? Okay. Which button do I push to do it? It gets me every time. Okay. I think, again, these shouldn't come as a surprise, but we have some identified operational problems at Dinwiddie County Schools. Right now, on average, we have 15% of our buses are late each day. That's approximately 77 secondary students, about 3.5% of our population at the secondary schools. That's middle school and high school. And approximately 98 elementary students, which is about 4.9% across the board. That obviously leads to community frustration. It would lead to frustration in my household when my children were small. But also, it's important to note that this is not, it's out there in the public that we have a bus driver shortage. That's not actually necessarily 100% true. We have 100% of our contracted drivers right now are filled. So every contract that we offer is filled. The problem is it's very difficult to get substitute bus drivers. When everybody has life going on, as Dr. Weston always says, and people miss work. It's part of life. And because of that, when drivers are out, it's very difficult to fill those slots. Most people who are driving buses are looking to be contracted, and for benefits and, full-time pay and things of that nature. So it's difficult to have people fill in. We do have some fill-ins, and we're very grateful for them. But unfortunately, most days we have less fill-ins than we do absences. So it's also important to know that on average, we're missing 40 minutes of instructional time per day. That's 9.52% of our day that we're missing these students above that we talked about. It also limits, these late buses limit extracurricular and field trip transportation. Right now, elementary schools cannot leave till 9 a.m. because they have to finish all the routes and get everybody to school before they can leave on a field trip. And then in order to not have late buses, because these same drivers are driving secondary routes, they have to be back by 2 o'clock. So you can imagine if we're trying to take one of our required field trips to Jamestown, leaving at 9 and being back by 2 is very difficult. It's difficult to do that to go to Pamplin Park, much less out of town. So I wanted to make sure that we understand. The other problem that I see that I hear a lot about is the AM and PM congestion on Courthouse Road and between the middle school and the high school. I think we worked very hard to do that, but honestly, the schools were built in different times, different eras, and the egress-ingress patterns between the two schools are just different. One school, the ingress and egress was built in 1965, the other school, 2008. Things have changed dramatically in those times. So those are our problems operationally. I don't think that was a secret. I think it's very clear. So I came up with, and I worked with CESO, which is the Center for Effective School Operations, who did our transportation study, and we came up with some potential fixes to our problems. The first is to hire 5 to 10 additional contracted drivers. Now, that sounds great, and it may work perfectly. It's a bit cost prohibitive when you look at the amount that it would cost is up to $290,000 for 10 additional drivers. That's just an average. It could be more, it could be a little less based on the drivers we hire, their experience rate. The other is to further consolidate our special transportation routes. Right now, we consolidate a lot of our routes that go out of district. Like, for instance, we'll drop off at one school, then take the kids to another school and drop off and take, to a third school. And then when we pick them up, we'll pick them up at all 3 schools. What that does is it makes those routes very long. So we have some students who are on the bus a long time just based on sheer distance and routes. That's also a bit cost prohibitive to combine those because we'd have to buy 3 additional 14-passenger buses and hire 3 additional staff. So we'd be looking at approximately $384,000 to do that. The last thing that CESO recommended was considering restructuring the bell schedules. This would, did I do that? Okay, this would optimize current staff and deployment bus utilization. One thing that CESO did a study on was our bus utilization. Right now, we hover around 50 to 60% utilization range. Now, for a rural county, it's not awful, but it can be much better. And what that means is if you have a 55-passenger bus, some buses have 25 kids on it for a route. Now, you think about some of these areas in Dinwiddie County where it's not practical to put 55 kids on a bus because there's not 55 kids out there in that area. But we can do better on the bus utilization. We also are looking to minimize instructional time and decrease route lengths and times. Our longest route right now is over an hour. It's about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Our goal is to get our routes to 45 minutes. That's about the max amount of time we'd like for children to be on the bus. And that's a long time, but I think that's doable. Our current bell schedule at Dinwiddie County Schools, Dinwiddie High School, 7:35 to 2:15. The middle school, 7:35 to 2:15. And if you've ever been there at the changeover, they get out at the same time because they do one school and they drive across to the other school. And then elementary, 8:35 to 3:30. So we have 40 secondary routes that drop off at the high school in the middle school as early as 7:10. And then they have to turn around and also drop off after doing their elementary route by 8:15. That becomes very difficult for some of our routes and our drivers, especially our longer ones in McKinney and the Church Road area with Midway and Sunnyside. So pros and cons of our current schedule. The pros are standard start times. That's helpful to parents, that's helpful to the community. DHS and DMS follow the same block schedule. That's very helpful for scheduling so that 8th graders can take classes across the street. Community familiarity with our schedules and childcare arrangements. All of those things are pros because right now they're in place and people are adjusted to that. Some cons is it's very difficult for us to adjust when we have absent drivers. We have a significant loss of instructional time, as you saw on the previous slide. But also, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to me coming from the activities athletic background, is we're limiting what these extracurricular and athletic trips can do. Unfortunately, just based on drivers and based on getting kids to school, sometimes that's about all we can do, and we're having to sacrifice some of the enrichment activities that these students deserve. But also the traffic congestion, I hear a lot about that, and we want to make sure that we can try to fix that if we can. So with all that said, why should we consider? And again, I want to emphasize the word consider because obviously I'm bringing this to you for consideration at a later date, but I wanted you to have this information so that you can talk about this to your constituents and so that we can talk about this as a community. Reduction of late buses each day. I've talked to several schools that have gone to staggered bus times, several school systems, some like us, some not like us, some cities, some rural, and most of them went from an excess of 15. We're at 15, but most are at 25 to 30 to less than 1% of their buses late each day. Increased instructional time for students, which obviously we're all interested in that. We want to get these kids in school for as long as we possibly can each day, especially given the weather patterns and other things that come up. Reduced AM and PM traffic on Courthouse Road. A response to an enrollment study. Okay, we've done an enrollment study, so we have a good idea of what areas of our county are growing and what areas are not growing, and we want to respond to that. We want to make sure that we can successfully utilize our buses in the more crowded areas and in the more rural areas. But also we have less limitations on the extracurricular and activities and field trips so that we can provide these enrichment activities to our students so they can go to Jamestown and spend the whole day there, eat lunch, and not have to worry about being back by 2 o'clock. Things of that nature, that right now we're sacrificing. And also, and obviously we want to optimize our resource utilization. We want to make sure that we are using our buses and our drivers as well as we can possibly use them to transport these students. And I do want to add, our bus drivers work very hard. This is not from lack of effort on anybody's part. This is just lack of resources. We have some drivers that do 3 routes a day. So you think about that. That's 3 routes in the morning, 3 routes in the afternoon. And we have some that drive their routes and then work all day doing the inner routes and then do a route in the afternoon. So it's a tough job. And if you can imagine how tough being a bus driver is. I went and I looked at some of our surrounding localities and I looked at their bell schedules, and I just put this for informational. I realize now looking at it, it looks like a rainbow, but what I did was I did each school, Chesterfield in blue, Hanover in red, Henrico in green, Caroline in purple. I use Caroline County because, believe it or not, they're very similar to us. They're a rural county that's kind of an outlier with about the same amount of students, with about the same amount of schools. And I won't read it to you. You can see their tardy bells and their dismissal times. And you can see that Chesterfield does stagger. Hanover staggers their elementary a little bit. Henrico staggers, and Caroline does not stagger. They have 5 elementary schools and they keep them all on the same, similar to what we do. Mm-hmm. Secondary, and this is where the money's made when you're talking about trying to make sure that you can get kids to school on time, because secondary, you have high school and middle school that have to complete a route before they get back for elementary. So if you look, Chesterfield County Schools, they have an hour stagger between their middle schools and high schools. Now they have some specialty schools that are a little different, but they're a much larger county. Hanover does not stagger. They're 8:45 to 3:45, no matter what. Henrico staggers about 25 minutes, a little smaller, a lot of city routes, so not as big of stagger needed. And Caroline County Schools does not stagger. Now, the reason I put Hanover and Caroline, because you would say, well, Mr. Walters, they're doing exactly what you're doing. They also have a huge late bus problem. On March 7th, Hanover County had 31 late buses on the middle school, high school level. They posted on their website. I spoke to some people who used to work with me here that work in Caroline now. They have 4 to 5 high school late buses per day. So they're having the same issues we are, which obviously that contributes to it, is they don't stagger. So I wanted to present this to you as a discussion. This is certainly not anything in stone. This is a starting off point. As I said, we're trying to get going with fixing a problem. If we have a problem and we don't do anything different, we're going to have the same problem. So this is a start off point, and then there may be 1,000 other things, and that's why we want to talk to the community and see what are some other options, what are some other things. I say it a lot, and it doesn't really mean much, but it resonates with me. We want it to be right. I don't have to be right. We just want the situation to be right. So I propose in this that we have that hour stagger between high school and middle school. That gives them a chance to do the high school route, get back and do the longer elementary routes. And then the middle school can do their route and get back and do the shorter elementary routes. So elementary A, which is Midway, Southside, and Sunnyside, which is a much higher square mileage, they would be able to have a little more time to do those routes. Elementary B, which is Southerland and Dinwiddie Elementary, which is a much lower square mileage, they wouldn't need quite as much time. And then I put there at the bottom the 20 DHS and DMS and the routes, what time they'd be dropping off at the earliest and the time that they would have to get back. Pros and cons. Obviously, there's both. Pros, we'd increase the time between secondary and elementary, which seems to be the difference when you talk about staggered and you talk about late buses. DHS and DMS would split their routes, therefore making them smaller and less crowded. Also, you don't have such a wide variance between age groups on the bus at the same time. There would be more fill-in flexibility for our absent drivers, and our absent driver coverage would go up. And again, we're anticipating 99% of our late buses being filled. We did take the staggered schedule and apply it to 20 of our days where we had late buses this year so far, and we would not have had a late bus any of those days. Earlier extracurricular trip departure time. So now when our cross-country team needs to be in Chesterfield at 3:30, they can be there at 3:30 because we're not limited to them leaving at 4. And then later field trip times, which means they can spend a proper amount of time on these field trips and make sure they get the full enrichment. The cons. Obviously, the biggest con is the community adjustment. Anytime you change things on parents, I'm a parent myself, I know it throws people's world into scatter. So we wanted to talk about this early so that we can get other options and we can make sure that we can give people plenty of time to make adjustments should that be necessary. 25 to 40 minutes later start and dismissal for some elementary schools, okay? Varsity practice start times and JV practice start times may need to be adjusted for 8th graders who participate in some high school sports. And I put under there, and I put into different because I wanted to make sure that it's not considered a con. It just wouldn't fit under the other column. We are sending out a survey in the next couple of weeks. I believe Dr. Clay will be sending out a survey to discuss before and after school care at some of these elementary schools in the school. There's a lot of programs that do that, but basically the parent's able to drop off earlier, the student gets enrichment, and then they go to class, and then after school they can do the same. So there are companies that come in and do that, and we would only go with a accredited company. We wouldn't just go with, a mom and pop type shop because our most precious resource will be with them, our students. So the last thing I wanted to share with you is we have talked to this about at some levels. We have talked to the secondary principals and the secondary staff that's here at the division level. We've met with the elementary principals and the division staff on the elementary level. And now I'm talking to the school board. I thought it was important to speak to all those because we're trying to do as we wade out into this slowly is we're trying to make sure that there aren't hurdles we can't navigate. Because if there's a hurdle we can't navigate, we say, look, that's a stopper. Then there's no reason to keep going further because this obviously didn't work. So we've been through these 3 processes. We've been through these 3 steps. And I wanted to make sure that we can put that out there. The next step would be March 18th. For us to meet with community and any DCPS staff that can't make any other meetings. That will be at Midway Elementary, which is an elementary A according to this plan. But again, this meeting can go any direction. We're looking for all input. And then to the 19th, Dinwiddie Elementary, which is elementary B school, same thing. And then March 27th at Dinwiddie High School to talk about the secondary plan. Again, same thing, staff or community. We're also going to plan to make, and I got to get with the directors to see the good time because I want to make sure these staff that don't work the normal school hours, I want to make sure they can also have their voice heard. And so we'll be meeting with any secondary, elementary, or support staff that has questions and would like to do that. Now that will probably be during the middle of the school day because their hours aren't typically during the school day. But I think it's important that we note that I do want community feedback. We want we want community feedback. I know you want community feedback. I think it's important that we can come up with something that we think is will help our school system get better operationally, because I think we need to. So the next steps, just for clarification, gather feedback from the stakeholders. Those are those meetings we just talked about. Apply pertinent information from these March sessions, and I'll be doing that through March as we take notes. I know I'll be there. There'll be representatives from transportation. I hope that Dr. Clay, Dr. Weston, or any of the other cabinet members that would like to join us will be there. And then third, proposal, including community and staff feedback to the school board, if appropriate, and for approval. As you know, and I put April 15th, I apologize. Obviously, that's not the next school board date. It's April 8th. That's a typo on my part. But obviously, as you know, anything that we do of this nature would be approved by the school board. So I'm not asking for your approval tonight, but I am asking for any comments or opinions you have on it so that we can keep moving forward.
Mr. Walters, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you already touched on the child care element of this, and I think that will likely be one of the biggest
I agree.
obstacles to
Yes,
this.
sir.
And so I would love for us to look for some kind of way to invite some of the child care providers into the process.
Absolutely.
Because, and I can't personally, I don't know all the ins and outs, but for a hypothetical, if we have a child care provider in our county that services Southerland Elementary School and Midway Elementary School, if we stagger those times, that could present challenges to them. For example, if they go pick up these kids, can they leave those kids to go pick up another group of kids an hour later? So I would be curious if we could maybe meet with them and see what challenges it presents to them as a part of that process.
Absolutely.
I think I understand the advantage to the stagger system in the sense that, but I'm going to ask you to clarify just so that I,
Okay.
my understanding of the way that this helps us is because you're creating kind of a callback system. So a driver completes their route and then calls back and says, do you need me for a second route? Is that right?
Yeah, in most cases, it won't be a callback. It'll be, they've already been assigned a second route.
Okay.
But this allows them, they're doing the double routes already. This allows them to do that double route without making the second route late.
So, for example, I guess the reason I'm asking for clarification on this is because if substitute drivers is a problem, if a particular driver has already been assigned those two routes and that driver is out,
Yeah.
how does this stagger solve that problem? There's somebody else will get that callback, or
Yes, sir. So if a high school driver calls out under this system, a middle school driver in a pinch can do their route and still get back and do the middle school route in time. Okay. But more importantly, the elementary driver, especially the elementary A driver, can go and do a high school route,
Okay.
then get back in time to do the elementary drive, and then do their middle school route or their high school route.
What would that process look like? At what point does that driver get notification that, hey, you're running an extra route today?
Usually what happens is it's when it's calling, our preference is the night before, but that's not always the case. Right. You know, just like any of us, a bus driver wakes up sick, you know, they call in, then we have to scramble a little bit to make that happen. But this happens twice a day because we have AM and PM. So that callback can happen the night before, the morning of, or the afternoon of the PM routes.
Okay.
Because people also get sick during the middle of the day.
Right.
You know, so the process is a little bit chaotic. Transportation does a great job of making sure that they have routes covered. Right. But this just allows us more flexibility to cover those without making late buses.
Right.
Yeah.
So one last question, and I apologize because it may not be fair to ask you this question because this might not be in your wheelhouse, but you raised a point that I hadn't heard before today, and that it makes sense though, that the problem is not a shortage of drivers.
That's correct.
It's a shortage of substitute drivers.
Sir.
So the question I have is, how does our substitute driver pay compare to other areas? And similarly, how do our substitute driver, our other divisions, are they filling those positions better than we are? Like, is Chesterfield County, do they have a full list of substitute drivers, or are they struggling in that area as well?
I don't know. I imagine they struggle with substitute drivers. I don't know that for a fact. I know they do their bus transportation a little different. The schools and the extracurriculars, they call drivers and they make that agreement. But I don't want to speak too much on it because I don't know the details. I imagine, I know Caroline and Hanover are struggling with substitute drivers. I've spoken to them. Those two I put a lot of stake in because they're very similar to us. Caroline more so.
The easy answer for citizens in all of this, because obviously it seems that a lot of our citizens believe that we have a shortage of bus drivers, and you're clarifying that's not the case. But their easy answer to that was pay the drivers more.
I agree.
So if it's not a shortage of drivers, but a shortage of substitute drivers, the suggestion may be then that the easy answer is we'll just pay our substitute drivers better. But if we're already paying a fair rate, then that takes that off the table. That's why I asked the question.
I understand. I do not know off the top of my head the substitute rate. I know that, again, because we have 100% fill of our contract, I believe, we're competitive. But everybody wants more, obviously, and I think the job they do could possibly, warrant more because it's a very difficult job.
I just will say that with regards to whether it's the bus driver substitute or a classroom substitute, we are very challenged now. And that has to do with as the minimum wage continues to increase, we're kind of chasing that target as well. And so places like Target and Chick-fil-A and other places like that, they can go and they're making a lot more money than driving a school bus
And we
with
have
30 or 40 kids on it.
Yeah, very large corporations in our county that pay a lot more.
Yes.
And we can't compete with Amazon and Walmart distribution.
Yeah, so it is the competition that we're unable to keep up with, not the educational competition.
Yeah.
And so these hearings are published somewhere for?
They're going to be published on Facebook, which seems to be a popular spot to get information. So we are going to publish it on Facebook. We're going to send it out to, via our student information.
Okay.
But we want to make sure people know it because it doesn't do us any good to stand there and talk to, the 5 people would do great, but I'd like to have as many people as we can so we can get as many opinions and options as we can.
Well, I thank you for answering my question.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work, for contacting the other districts and working with other people in surrounding areas to bring us this information.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll keep everybody updated on the child care meetings because I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yes, look forward to that.
Is there any other questions I can answer about that?
Any other questions for Mr. Walter? I think you're up next also.
Well, I'd like to say before we ask Mr. Walters to speak, just a little bit about how we as a school system generate funds. So, we are funded mostly by the state and mostly by the locality. We do not have authority to generate funds, or carry funds over in the school system. So there are a lot of different ways that we can do that. Typically for our small capital projects, which we have a long list of capital projects that every year seems to get larger and larger with our outdated facilities. So sometimes we surplus our things that we own in an effort to generate funds for our school system to tackle some of these ongoing capital projects. As a board that we've surplus some of our vehicles, so we do that in an effort to put money back in the transportation department to purchase additional vehicles. So sometimes it's about, they've outlived their usefulness, there's too many miles on them, they're not safe for us to drive. The other things that we own happen to be property. And so we sometimes will take a look at all the property that we own and say, this is an area that we might be able to surplus if we don't have a use for the property. We would only typically do that in rare situations. There have been times over the years where people have come to us to say, hey, we know that you own this property, or you have this property behind a school, or you have this property that I noticed there's not been anything on in 20 or 30 years. Would that be something you would have an interest in selling? And so in times like that, we do a lot of research to determine whether or not it is in the best interest of the school system to move forward with that. Do we have the need on our end? And certainly, would that not prohibit us in the future? Because we're not only making decisions for today, we're making decisions for our school system forward, because there will be a time when we're not the people sitting at the table. And we want to make certain first that we're being very good stewards of the resources and the monies that we have, and also that we're putting the school system in a good place for the people that will come behind us and the students and the families that we will serve down the road. So Mr. Walters is going to come and talk to you about a recommendation a discussion, if you will, about a piece of property that we own that we'd like to recommend becoming a surplus piece of property.
Yep. So just again, I want to clarify, this is a discussion. There's no action required tonight. The recommendation is just to hear me out, and if you so desire to continue to talk about this, schedule a hearing. If you don't, then you could also just drop it. I mean, you have every option here. The process as it stands is when someone comes and offers or asks about a piece of land, I go through a rubric, if you would, of how is this a property that we would be considering to sell. An offer is made. We determine whether or not we anticipate using that land. We discuss access to that land and would it affect any operations of that school? Because if it does, then it's off the table. We have an appraisal done by an independent appraiser. We compare the appraisal amount to the offer amount, which we have the benefit of getting that. If someone offers, they're going to give an amount, so we have the benefit of comparing the two. And then we present the offer to the board. At that point, it's at the board's discretion, it's at the board's pleasure what they do with that. I do want to say I am obligated to present that to you because I'm not the decision maker in this situation. I'm the presenter of the information, the conduit, if you would. So I want to make that clear that this is simply the presentation publicly to give you the opportunity to ask me questions publicly and also to give comments publicly. So we were approached by Baylor Construction, and they did give an offer, a written offer for the 18.439, which is TP number 1878 behind Midway Elementary. It's actually behind the buffer of Midway Elementary. And the offer was $115,000. We did an appraisal, and the appraisal came back at the same. It actually was, I think there was a $600 difference between the two. So that's what I'm here to speak to you about. I'm here to speak to you about this offer and hopefully offer you some recommendations and some suggestions on how to proceed. I did get some questions that I know have been asked maybe of you, but some questions that I came prepared to answer so that we can clarify some things. First of all, I went through how we discuss surplus. I can tell you that one of the things that we're getting ready to do, as I brought to you last meeting, is we're going to put fencing around our playgrounds so that our students are safe, regardless of whether we sell land or not. We're doing it at every school, every elementary school. So I know that's important, and that's important to me as security of our students. Another question that was asked is, can we guarantee the sale of the land after the use? Well, unfortunately, we can't. If you sell the land, then that land becomes, the usage of that becomes the county's issue, so to speak. The zoning issues, what it's used for, how it's used, and all that goes through the zoning and planning department. So we don't control that anymore afterwards. How can we guarantee that the money for the sale of the land will not be retained by the county and will actually go to the school? Well, any offer that I bring to you will come with, as this one did, with a resolution. This resolution states that we're selling the land and also that the money will be retained by the school. If that's not agreed to by the county, then we're not interested in selling the land, because again, this is our one way that we can try to offset some of the costs that we have for capital projects. Can the addition of houses increase the school's population? And if so, at what rate? Well, obviously it can. There is formulas for every type of housing. There's no standard formula. Usually the bigger and more expensive the house, the less impact it has on elementary schools. Usually people with elementary school students or younger students are starting out and they're not building bigger houses. That's how the formula works. On the other side, usually smaller houses that are less expensive have a little more impact. So it really depends on what type of house and how many houses. I can tell you, and I don't know much about building houses. I've never built one in my life, but I know that when I was building my own house, 18.439 does not allow you a lot of room for a lot of houses. How many, I couldn't tell you. I'm not an expert, and I don't want to sit here and give you a number because I don't know. But I know that it's very difficult. I had a hard time squeezing mine on 5 acres. So, and it's because of the wells and things of that nature. But why didn't we use a sealed bid? Again, this was not something we sought. We didn't advertise, hey, we want to sell this land if anybody's interested. An offer was brought to us, and when that offer was brought to us, we responded to that offer. So now that offer is public, it would be any kind of bid, and any kind of bid is fine, if it's a public bid, but it would be public, just like this is. Any other offer brought to me, I would bring to you the exact same way. And again, I'll bring it until you say, hey, stop bringing us offers, or we're going to vote on this. And that's your discretion. So those are some questions that I had. I hope I explained them. I know I talk quick sometimes, but if I can answer any other questions you may have.
I have a list.
Yes, sir.
So forgive me for, I just want to ask these publicly just so that we make sure we have clarification. You spoke to the idea of how we determine its surplus. How much land do we have at Midway apart from this 18 acres?
Apart from this 18 acres, behind Midway, and this is how I measured it in football fields, we have 2 football fields from the back of the gym to the wood line. And then on the right side of Midway, where our pickup and drop off is, it's approximately 2 football fields that way. So it's a 2 football field square.
Okay.
How many acres that is, I don't know.
That land is adequate for any future plans that we have for Midway?
Yeah, see, the thing is, if we decided to, we don't anticipate, but if we ever decided to expand Midway, there's adequate room for that. The land behind that 18 is not enough to do any kind of a public building on.
Okay.
So that's how we determine, that's one of the determiners for it being surplus.
Okay, so back to the valuation of the property.
Yes, sir.
You had an independent
I did.
Assessment or whatever the term.
It was an appraisal. Yes, sir.
Appraisal. Just to be clear, because I did some looking into this, and from what I can see, everything's done right. It's done above board. I think some of the confusion is about how that works and valuing property for what it can be versus what it is.
Yeah.
And can you speak a little bit about like how that appraisal was developed?
Yeah.
What thought was put into that?
Yeah, I worked with Hallmark Properties, because again, this is public record. And I don't know the first thing about appraising property, but I know that when I spoke to him, I told him that I need the fair market value, not just on what it is, but anything it could potentially be. Right. And this property is zoned A2 agriculture, in which there's a list of about 50 things on the website it can be used for. The only housing it can be used for as it stands right now is one house. And that's just how it's zoned, and that could be changed. I don't have any idea how that works. But so when he gave me that price is what it is now and the potential uses for it in the future. Right. And that's how I was told the appraisal process works.
Okay. So that being said, we have a valuation now.
Yes, sir.
Right. And we have a buyer that has offered to pay that valuation.
Yes, sir.
We chose not to use a sealed bid. My understanding is just because of the way the process was initiated and whatnot.
Well, because it was initiated by somebody offering us a bid, so then it became public. I can't take a bid and then seal it. You know, I'd have to make that public.
That makes perfect sense. So this isn't a matter of no one else has the option.
No, not at all.
Right.
No.
So the question I'm asking publicly now is, if someone wanted to walk in this room today and say, I'll give you for it, there's still the option for other people to bid. It's just not a sealed bid process.
Yeah, what I would do is I would take that information, get the exact same resolution, get the exact same contract, and present it to you. Okay. Again, I don't have any authority to say yes or no.
Okay. So if someone walked in here today and said, I'll give you $5,000 more per acre,
I would get it in a sales contract signed and brought to you. Signed by them, not by us, because I don't sign contracts.
They would have to put a contract on the table before you would present that to us.
No, for them to do an official offer, yes. But if they just wanted to say, hey, I'm willing to talk about this and I'd like to think about offering you this amount, but they don't give me a contract, I would report that to you. So this is a verbal offer.
The reason I'm asking this is because a number of community members, citizens are saying, based on the numbers they've seen with published stuff on social media, they're saying, oh, that's grossly undervalued. Okay. It's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Yep.
So unless someone else is willing, so I want it to be stated publicly that if someone really wants to pay that much more for it, that's their prerogative. They can make that offer.
And I would, quite honestly, be ecstatic because I have a lot of projects we need done. So if people are going to offer more, we'll take it. I mean, obviously, I'll take it and bring it to you no matter what. But I'm a money spender. Dr. Weston can tell you, I'm trying to spend money. So as much as we can get.
That person, though, would then have to take on the risk of whether or not it could be rezoned
Yes, sir.
or whatever they want to do with it to get that value out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that would be through the county, not through the school system.
Okay. The other thing that I would ask, Mr. Walters, I appreciate your patience
Yeah, no
and all
problem.
this. And obviously, we've kind of hit the brakes, pumped the brakes a little bit on this. We're slowing down a little bit. And you're making arrangements. Well, I guess we are making arrangements. I would like to ask that we do set up another public hearing.
Absolutely.
A couple weeks out, if we could. And then also, I would like to ask, I know, I did some looking into this. We satisfied the requirements of the law.
Yes, sir.
By this was published in the
Yes,
Richmond
sir.
Times-Dispatch.
On March 4th. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so we did what we were required to. Unfortunately, and I guess if I understand this right, real estate people look at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. No one else does, okay? No one reads the newspaper anymore.
Yeah.
So people that may not want to buy this but have an interest in this are feeling like, and I believe this is entirely a perception. I don't believe anybody's done anything unethical or immoral here, but I think there's a perception issue here.
Yeah.
Because people that don't look at the Richmond Times-Dispatch only found out about this on Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this past
Yes,
week.
sir.
And
Yes,
so they're saying, well, I have an opinion on this, and I already have plans for Monday or Tuesday night when the school board meeting is. So we're pumping the brakes, saying, okay, we'll give people a chance.
And if I could correct, we're not pumping the brakes. We're playing. The system is being the way it's supposed to act,
You're
which
exactly
is
right.
generate discussion, generate bids, generate all these things.
Sure. So what I would ask though is the Facebook does nothing to satisfy the law, but it helps us to, and I say Facebook, social media, more modern platforms.
Yeah.
It doesn't satisfy the law with regards to this, but it does help us to usurp the appearance of.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So if we could publish something like this and just say, okay, there's going to be a meeting. If you have an issue with it, come to the meeting. Now, at that point, we can reasonably say, I think, we did everything we could to put this out there
Yeah.
and let people speak. I understand why people feel like, well, the Richmond Times-Dispatch isn't enough, but I also understand that's what the law says you're supposed to do. So if we could do that, I would greatly appreciate that. And then I don't know how we go about making it an official date and time. Madam Chair, is that something we need to motion for?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I also just mention one more thing? Facebook is great. Obviously, it's effective
No, it's
because,
not.
and as we know that Facebook obviously gets information out. So I'd be more than happy to do that. So we can make that happen.
I disagree with you. I don't think Facebook is
Well,
great.
Facebook is effective, I guess. Is a better
I
way to
use
say it.
Facebook. I think it's all on how you use it.
Yeah.
And I think we can use it to our benefit here, but I'm not saying it has to be Facebook. I just think some other modern platform that we could use to get the information out.
Ms. Robinson,
If it is Facebook, then great.
We have Facebook, Twitter. I don't know what else we have,
yeah,
but Ms. Robinson Williams does all that.
Yeah.
We'll get it. Oh, X, yeah. We'll get the information out on every social platform we have.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know if I need to make a motion or how do we do that?
You don't, I don't think you need to make a motion. We have a meeting that is already established. You have a work session that's coming up in 2 weeks, and you could earmark that work session to be your hearing, your
So-
public hearing on the 25th.
So we can publicize that as
And
a
that's what-
hearing.
and
Okay.
you
I'll
wanna
work
make
with Ms. Robinson Williams to get that publicized tomorrow
already
morning.
have a standing
And then
meeting.
I think she can set it to where it goes out every, I don't really know how to use Facebook that well, but
Okay.
I'm sure you can set it to where it goes out every once in a while and refreshes to the top of your feed or whatever. Yeah.
Again, I thank you. I know that's 2 subjects in a row. I just,
Hey, that's what I'm here for, to hopefully answer questions for
and
you.
I want to say this. The process is frustrating, I think, for a lot of people involved on all sides of this. But I also believe that this is how the process is
Yeah.
supposed to work.
Yeah.
This is democracy in action. As a school board, we don't deal with stuff like this a whole lot.
Yeah.
Most of the time, this happens on the county side. But I think it's okay for us to invite voices to the table and to hear those voices and then let the process work. And so I'm not mad at anybody for being upset, but I also am not mad at anybody for being frustrated because I think that's how the process works.
And this is not what we do for a living. I don't advertise and work land deals for a living. It's part of my job, and I get that. But I did the best I could, and I'm gonna continue to do the best I can by y'all, by the school board, and by the superintendent and everybody that in the community. So
I appreciate the work you've done. Do you have a specific project earmarked for the funds that would come in?
I have a couple. I have a list. I have about $11 million worth of work that needs to be done at our middle school. So we're going to start there. But I can promise you, most of my work is going to revolve around security.
Security.
Yeah.
Great.
And again, we desperately need some security features at the middle school. And believe it or not, the high school and Southerland are becoming outdated.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
thank you, Mr. Walter. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I know
Are there
you
any
probably
other
got a bunch.
questions?
Just one small question or request for, if we have a work session and this then becomes our public session, are we able to have that towards the end of the agenda? That way it's at least a little bit more of an accessible time for anyone from the public that's going to come and speak on that.
Yeah, I'll be there whenever y'all tell me to be there. Yes, sir.
Because I'd hate for it to be at the very beginning of the agenda and then people are upset that, oh, I want to speak in support of this or what have you,
Understood.
and they can't be.
It can be any time you want it
Yeah.
to be.
It's not a regular meeting date,
It's,
fourth Tuesday.
so this is typically when you don't come in here, so you really can make the time whenever.
And I'll be there whenever you say,
Yeah.
so whenever y'all make the time.
But absolutely.
And Mr. Walters, I want to thank you because of the phone calls that I had over the weekend. You have cleared up any of the information that I need to impart to the people in my district who are concerned.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I would like to say something as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I did have questions, just like the other board members. I think it's very appropriate that people ask questions. And, you know, like we say, we don't sell land often. We have had other issues about land. Someone came to us wanting to buy some land behind Southerland. We looked at it. It wasn't accessible to that person, so we declined to go through a process. We've sold land and other spots. But, on this one, there are other people interested perhaps, and community people want to say yay or nay to perhaps having building or something in the area. So I appreciate the fact that, we're going to have public hearing. We will listen to people and make a decision in that direction. And I appreciate all the hard work that you've done, Mr. Walters.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other questions or concerns for Mr. Walters?
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll have some citizen comments. Mr. Patrick Lloyd. Did you have to read anything, Bonnie?
No, you do.
On the back? Mr. Lloyd, before you speak, do I have to read the whole thing? No, I read all this.
Which part?
Right here.
Part at the bottom, this is we minutes.
The board, just wait 1 minute. We don't do this often, as they said. The board ensures that public participation at any specially called meeting of the school board is fair and respectful. Upon recommendation of the board chair, public hearings and forums are typically designed to receive substantial community input and individual comment. Sign-up sheets will be available at each door for those attending who wish to address the board. Time limits will usually be set for each speaker to ensure everyone can address the board. Typically, each speaker will be allocated 5 minutes during public hearings and forums rather than 3 minutes during the public address portion of a regular meeting. So today we're 3 minutes. We're 3 minutes.
On the 25th, it'll be 5
On the
minutes.
25th, it'll be 5. Okay, thank you for coming. State your name and your address, please.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Lloyd. I live at 5406 Midway Drive in Southerland. First, I want to say something that I hadn't prepared. The girls wrestling team, he did not Coach Rogerson did not mention that the VHSL is actually moving toward fully sanctioning girls wrestling. So I strongly encourage all the board members to get a hold of athletic directors or who are the school administrators, everybody to push for that. These girls single-handedly have driven Virginia girls wrestling to the level that it's currently at. So I just want to say that. So what I came to today to talk about is to actually mention what was just discussed in the sale of the land behind Midway Elementary. So I live at 5406 Midway Drive, as I mentioned. My land, my backyard through the woods is Midway, is the side of Midway Elementary. So the land that is being proposed to be bought at 187A does not connect to my land. However, the land that plot of land, 1878, does connect to 187, which does connect to my land, which is also currently owned by Baylor Construction. That property was purchased, I believe, in 2021. And my concerns, and I believe the concerns of many people in the community, are the potential of a neighborhood of any size, of any development, being on these combined properties, practically cornering an elementary school. My main concerns are the infrastructure required by the county, such as roads, utilities, drainage, traffic control, all of these things that will inevitably place a burden on the local taxpayers. So as of now, obviously that property belongs to the school system. As one Facebook commenter, I mean, I know we've been talking about Facebook, right? Somebody mentioned, why would a construction company buy 18.5 acres of land combined to or connected to another 20 plus that they already own without the intention of potentially building a neighborhood? And the response to that was they like recreational activities, and it's the biggest investment to hold on to. It's pretty simple. So as the school board, I strongly encourage you to lean on that comment that was made, that it is one of the biggest investments to hold on to. If this is moved to be surplus land, or if this goes to a surplus status and it is sold, once the land is sold, you will not get it back. You will not get it back for $115,000. I can guarantee you that. In every conversation I've had with the members of the surrounding community, I've not yet found one who supports the decision to sell this property. And I've talked to everybody that lives on my road, people that live on Midway Road, not Midway Drive. There's two separate roads. You can ask the person that has the same number as me on Midway Road. They get my mail all the time. But our concerns about school safety, transparency, zoning, infrastructure costs, and fairness in this sale need to be heard. And I urge you all to just rethink this sale and the move to make it surplus, and at the very least, delay the decision as far as possible until the public has given the full transparency, which they will. I know I kind of prepared all this statement ahead of time, but I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for coming. Okay, Miss Christina Conway. State your name and your address.
My name is Krista Conway. I live at 19114 Carson Road here in Dinwiddie. And I've come to kind of address the bell schedule thing going on. As a mom of two kids who currently go to Dinwiddie Elementary School with Miss Leanne Adams, by the way, best principal, I have a major concern because I have to be at work by 8:30. I work for Dinwiddie County Social Services. I'm already kind of struggling to make it through that line because it's so long in the mornings. I'm getting there right at 8:30 already. I can't get there at 8:40, 8:45 and not be in trouble with Kevin Massengale. Okay, that's just not going to work. I know I'm one of many opinions. I know you cannot help all the opinions that are going to be involved in the situation. I also live like 1 minute from the school, but it's unreasonable to think that I should put my child on a bus when I live 1 minute from the school, but I don't have anyone that is available to take my children to school for me when my husband has to be at work at 8, and I have no one else local to me that can take my children to school, and it does not make sense for me to put them on a bus where they could possibly be on the bus for a long time, or that bus now has to make a really quick stop to take them to the school, which is like 0.2 miles down the road. It just doesn't make sense to me. The other issue is them getting out at 4 p.m. My children would then not get to DeWitt, where they're dropped off at for childcare, until probably 4:30. And that stresses me out very much because they're already like falling asleep on the bus now. And that frustrates their bus driver to no end. And I get it. And I have mad respect for the bus drivers. I have so much respect for how much time and effort went into this study. I just hope that y'all take into the consideration that there's a frustration about this because our children are already exhausted. And especially our elementary school kids are exhausted. To have them in school till 4 p.m. is really just pushing it, if that makes sense. They're already so limited on the time they get outside of school. So please just really think about that before you implement that bus schedule. I get it. There is a frustration. There are so many factors that go into this, but please think about those kids, because it's not just us parents for after school care. It's not just us being frustrated about after school care. It's these children are already got so much going on and they're already so limited on time. So please just take that into consideration, and thank you so much for letting me speak today.
Thank you. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let my child let her speak, and I'll let these go at the end down there. Okay. Right now I'm going to forego board member comments and superintendent comments, and I'm going to allow the student representative to have her comments.
Well, first of all, I want to start by saying I'm happy to be back. It definitely is true when people say that senior year is the busiest. I've been very, very busy, but I'm happy to be back. As far as the Southerland Elementary School highlights, I'm a little biased. I am a Scotty alum, I will say. So they definitely all did good, and it was so exciting to see them present. And congratulations again to the DHS girls wrestling team. I know how hard they practice and how much they fight to make sure that girls wrestling is something that is known and represented, and they all do a great job doing that. I also want to highlight at the high school, there's so many good things going on. As some of you may know, I do announce daily at the high school, so I definitely want to congratulate DECA, FBLA, the DHS Players Speech Team. They just got another win, and it's just so good to see how successful our different clubs, organizations, and students are at the school. And with the year coming to an end, it's just really exciting to see everyone just grow, from the start of the year to the end of the year. So it's definitely something that I enjoy seeing every day. And I just love these meetings because I enjoy seeing the students, seeing the development for the upcoming years, because I know some of the students are going to be excited about that new schedule next year. So it's definitely just something that I enjoy, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So we're going to adjourn now. We're going to, I need a motion to adjourn to Eastside.
Do we need to announce
And join the
second
regular
meeting? Do we need to announce the fourth meeting?
I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn our regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. So now we are adjourned.